So winter time's on the way, it's getting close. I wanted to talk a little bit about fuel and gelling. And it's primarily the filter on the engine. And that's because it's a 3 to 4 micron filter. The pores are very, very small. So if there's any gelling in the fuel at all, it can cause a high fuel restriction. It is a pressure filter, so you've got that going for you. But if the unit sits for a few days and it's really, really cold out, by that I'm going to say, let's go with 0 degrees Fahrenheit. You could have a problem with gelling. So Cummins has a device called a thermal recirculation valve. On the new X15 engines, it's just part of the engine. You can't buy an engine without one that I know of. It comes right on it. And all it really does is it mixes some of the return fuel coming out of the engine with fuel that's being drawn into the engine so that it's warmer, so that it warms that filter up on the engine, the fuel filter, and that helps to stop your high restriction. The filter on the frame is 10 to 30 microns depending on your model and engine. And so that's a little bit better at dealing with thicker fuel. But again, high restriction, what's going to happen, you're going to get your 559s. So I'm going to put up a TSB, that's a technical service bulletin that Cummins has out. I'm going to put up there's a table that's basically a chart that tells you what the kit number is and what engine model it fits. There's basically just two kits, one for the X15 and another for everything that's older, whether it's QSX 15 or ISX 15. And I'm not saying you have to install this kit in cold weather. It's an option Cummins had for people that run in cold weather all the time. The other option people have if they're not going to be in cold weather all the time is fuel additives. So I'll put a link to a couple additives in my description. One thing with fuel additives you have to remember, they're concentrate. So if you take that additive and you buy it and you stick it in your bunk or your side box that's not heated, and then it goes down to 0 and you get it out and you decide to put it in, it may not run out of the bottle. So all the stuff that we have, we keep inside the building where it's warm. Or if you have a container that's safe, that you can put it somewhere in your truck where there's heat going to it, or it has some semblance of warmth, it'll pour out of the bottle much easier. Of course, the best option is to add it up front when you fuel up, pick it up and add it right then, and that way you don't have to worry about it being all gelled. People that sit over weekends on holidays and idle the truck the whole weekend and it's really cold, they're the ones that, if they don't have a TRV valve, might want to consider installing that kit or using an additive if they think they're going to have problems with gelling. The numbers on gelling, I can't give you a number and say, oh, well, if it's below 22 degrees Fahrenheit, it's going to gel. No, because fuel, even though it's all the same, it's not. And so there could be different cloud points. There's a lot that's involved in it. So let's take a look, and I'll put up that bulletin and the links, and here we go. Here's a basic diagram of how the fuel flow would go. Number 10 is the thermal recirculation valve, and you can see it heats the primary and secondary filter. Here we have the table or chart, and as you can see on the right, there's basically two part numbers. It ends in 341 or 155, and that's your kits. We also run fuel tank heaters that are options where they actually cut the tank and bolt a plate in. It's got a stainless steel tube on it, and that's got basically a thermal recirculation valve on that device that's built up on top of it, and that will direct hot water from the engine's cooling system down through the stainless steel tube to heat the fuel in a tank. That's on the trucks that primarily go over the road and do go up into cold climates and will be up there for quite a while. All of our tanks that have these heaters on, we've got double bunks on, so the tanks are underneath the bunks. The top of the tank's kind of protected from a continuous rain or whatever. So if you install one of the heaters in your tank, if you decide to cut the tank and do that, and your tank is exposed, in other words, behind the cab, out in the weather all the time, then just make sure when you install it that you properly seal that plate that goes on it, that's part of the device, the plate that goes down over the tank. Make sure that's sealed good, and the screws are all sealed good so you don't end up with contaminating your fuel when you're in a long rainstorm. Okay, thanks for joining me, and see you next time on Edge Shop Joe.